Normally we don't do a lot of guests off the top of the show, but sometimes the Just Democrats is a little bit different. And so, and we've had some nice historic moments on the show with the Just Democrats. So joining us now is the executive director of said Just Democrats, Alexandra Rojas. Alex, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Welcome, Alex.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And we're gonna do something fun today. I hear you have a special surprise guest for us with a fun announcement. What is it?
We do. Drum roll, please. We have made our first endorsement as Justice Democrats for this cycle, and we could not be more excited, more humbled, more honored, and how serendipitous it is that it is the state senator, Nina Turner, the progressive giant, the person that I know when I was a founding member and a founding staffer at Justice Democrats was one of the few people that took us seriously, that talked to our candidates, and so we just could not be more proud. So she's our special guest for today.
In fact, here comes the Nina Turner joining us right now. All right, how's this for fun? The gang's back together. So everybody, the first thing you need to do is jdems.us/Nina Turner. I'm not saying anything except for the URL, which I just said, and will be in the description box below. jdems.us/Nina Turner. That's giving to Nina's campaign, which is absolutely critical, as you'll see here. So, Senator Turner, before we turn to you, Alex, you guys have specific criteria and things that you look for in Just Democrats. So let me ask you a funny question since Nina's on with us. What was it about Senator Turner that got you guys to endorse her?
Well, I mean, she talks about this in her announcement video, and it's just been in every action that I know that I've at least seen from the way that she's worked with Justice Democrats, which is her entire life has been fighting and centering working and poor people in a time where our country desperately needs urgent leadership, whether it was her time as a Cleveland City Councilwoman, her time in the state Senate, her time as national co-chair for Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign, and so many other things that she has done throughout her career. It has demonstrated through and through that she is committed to not just this office of running for Congress, but to the movement of people and our collective solidarity together to actually get what we need to done in Congress in a progressive agenda. So I believe that Nina puts movement first. She puts others before herself. And that type of selfless leadership, especially right now, where we see in Congress, where if we didn't have a Cori Bush, we didn't have a Jamal Bowman, we didn't have an AOC or Rashida or Ayanna, what that would look like. And so imagine if we had a Congress full of Nina Turners, if we had a Congress full of Jamal Bowmans and Cori Bushes, we would see a lot more action on the things that need to get done. And we know that once Nina Turner enters, she will.
So, Senator Nina Turner, now, in order to take the Just Democrats endorsement, you have to be corporate PAC free, a very progressive, and in a fighting attitude. Are you comfortable with all those things, Senator?
Let me think about that. Extraordinarily comfortable with all of those things, and so honored by Alex and the rest of the team and the Justice Democrats and what they stand for. You know, I was talking to my staff earlier today, and I said, you know what? I've been a Justice Democrat before that term became cool. Mm-hmm. You know, just the personification of what that means and what this organization means, and just even looking back at the wonderful video that they created, and to see people like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and others sitting on that couch, and I'm on the screen trying to pump them up and talk to them about what power means and why it is so important to have the people's power in the hands of people who will not capitulate when it comes to standing up for the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. So to be in fellowship yet again with the Justice Democrats, but on the other side, I'm the candidate now. I feel like I've come full circle, and it means so much to me to have their endorsement.
Yeah, here comes justice. So have I mentioned jdems.us/Nina Turner? I think I might have mentioned that. All right, so let me go back to Alex for a second. So, Alex, how much was Just Democrats involved in the Cori Bush campaign to expel the Republicans from Congress? Because mainly you're known for electoral politics, but sometimes you get involved in legislative matters as well. So Cori Bush is a Just Democrat, everybody knows that. But how can a group like Just Democrats also support actions, whether it's this one or later ones on the minimum wage and others?
That's great. And right now, if you want to learn more about Cori Bush's resolution and sign up to also stand by her in holding these folks accountable, you can go to gopcoup.com to check out the number of folks from the progressive world that are signed on. But this, it's taken a lot to even get here, right? Before in 2018, it was AOC and Rashida and Ilhan and Ayanna. And then this year we were able to elect Marie Newman, Jamal Bowman, and Cori Bush. And so the dynamics have radically shifted, at least internally at Justice Democrats, and obviously externally. For the first time, we hired a political director because now that we have gotten really good on the front end of knowing what it takes to sort of fire all cylinders on a campaign that we've been a part of, we also now need to invest in governance and actually making sure that all of the work that we are doing on the front end for campaigns is being translated into Congress. And I think there's a lot that Justice Democrats, alongside the sort of breadth of progressive folks that have been doing a lot of work on the Hill, there's so many opportunities. So our political director has been working closely with all squad members' offices to make sure that we're in communication. And specifically for Cori Bush, we've been obviously with her since day one. And we are so proud to see her on day one, literally, of her first term in Congress, actually demonstrating what it means to hold the GOP accountable, especially when our country is faced with attacks of fascists and neo-Nazis have literally entered the Capitol floor. So I think she and others, it's not just her, it's Ilhan drafting the articles of impeachment. It's Jamal writing a bill to investigate the Capitol Police. And then like you alluded to, it's Mitch McConnell even coming out now saying that he might support articles of impeachment. And we know that pressure is because Justice Democrats, because progressives in Congress are actually making noise and are shifting the Overton window, even on something that should be so clear. And so we've been doing a lot of communication support, political support, whatever we can provide. But it really is Congresswoman Bush that's leading the effort.
I have a question, to kind of buttress your point, Alex, but directed toward Senator Turner, because it's very clear that the message coming from progressive lawmakers, specifically Justice Democrats, is a popular one. But we still have a situation in which some corporate Democrats remain defiant in their own political ideology. They continue to push back against progressive policy proposals. And so what do you envision your strategy to be once you're in Congress and you're able to really make the case for the policies that we desperately need in this country, not just for progressives, but for working people overall across the ideological spectrum? How do you strategize to get these Democrats on board when they've been so defiant so far?
Well, thank you for that, Anna. The progressives, and particularly Justice Democrats, but progressives, people who are not just saying the word, but they live the word. Mainline Democrats lost so many seats in 2020. It gives the progressives an opportunity to leverage. And that's exactly what we need to do, to be united in that leverage for good. Anna, you really point out something that's very important. People might not necessarily call themselves progressive, the term itself. But when you begin to drill down and peel back the layers, and you talk about healthcare, you talk about the 90 million plus people who are either uninsured or underinsured. You talk about people who don't have food. You talk about people who don't have a roof over their head when they lay down tonight. When you talk about those issues, changing the material conditions of people, people can relate to that. And that is the call of a justice Democrat, a justice-driven mission. And on the backdrop, as we go into next week, and this point is very important because we're gonna have a whole lot of people quoting the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Can I get a hello somebody on that? But they're not gonna live out the vision of the radical Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was despised in his time by white America, He was barely getting loved by Black America. But his vision is that of justice. Justice economically, politically, socially, racially, environmentally. He was against war. He talked about being seduced by materialism. You name it. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his contemporaries very much ahead of their time. And the Justice Democrats are very much in that spirit. They're in the spirit of Mayor Carl B. Stokes from my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, or Congressman Louis Stokes, his brother, from my hometown. It means to push when you have the people's power and to not equivocate on what is just, what is right, and what is good. And then they are going to have to come around, because not only are the Justice Democrats and progressives right there, but the American people are right there. And they are, in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, here. We're gonna leverage, to answer that was a long way for me to say, we need to make some demands like Frederick Douglass said, and leverage and make sure that there's consequences for not answering the demands of the people.
So Senator Turner, along the lines of what Anna was saying, I wanna go down a list real quick of the things that are happening right now in Congress and what you would do if you were there today. So first, would you support Cori Bush's resolution to expel the Republicans that voted against certification?
I definitely support that and welcome her leadership. As Alex laid out, she is in there doing the daggone thing, and she was in that first class as well. So I'm just beaming with pride. She calls me big sister. I call her little. She calls me big sis. I call her little sis. But just beaming with pride, because she is there right now, doing the exact work that she told the people of her district, and by extension, the people of this nation, that she would do. So I would be right there in support of her.
Yeah, and by the way, the audience should know Cori Bush has already endorsed Senator Nina Turner, and a lot more on the way coming there. But let's continue along those lines. This one's a little harder. Although for you, not very. $2,000 checks, the Democrats promised it. But of course, as soon as the Democrats get the Senate, Manchin says, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know about those $2,000 checks. I don't know if they're necessary. So I suspect that you would be in favor of the $2,000 checks. That's why I say it's not very tough for you in that regard. But what do you do with a problem like Manchin?
Manchin must be held to account by the Democratic caucus itself. He needs to get on board and stop the foolishness and this smokescreen that he and others are putting up about they don't know if it's gonna go to the people who need it. It will go to the people who need it. Millions of people in this country need that. And not just this $2,000. They haven't had relief since March, but we need to give them $2,000 monthly until we get through this pandemic and shore up small businesses and other businesses that employ the people of this thing. How can you in good consciousness? I don't know how some of those folks go to sleep at night, knowing that you have the power in your hands to ameliorate so much suffering in this country. Joe Manchin should be held to account by the Democratic caucus of the United States Senate. And if he don't get on board, then baby, they all need to banty about and get him out of there, period. There ain't no time to play games on this one.
Absolutely.
Well, he's also playing games on impeachment, saying although he thinks Trump should be impeached, he thinks it's a bad idea to bring it to the Senate, where he says the Republicans will vote it down and that perhaps we should do it later.
It's reckless and dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Alex,
reckless.
What's your reaction to that? And then I'll turn to Senator Turner.
I think it's reckless and dangerous. I think that Senator Turner is absolutely right that the Democratic caucus should hold him to account, because we're going to pay for it in 2022 or 2024 or future on down the line if we don't actually deliver for the American people. And we should not be having Democrats within our own caucus be stopping immediate relief when there are millions of people that Senator Turner just referred to. Not only that, there's some people that it's not like their rent or their payments have been relieved. They've just been pushed back. And that is going to be the ripple effects on our economy, the ripple effects on our society, in addition to what's happening right in this moment outside of the pandemic, when the National Guard is being pulled away or could be pulled away from vaccine distribution. It's a very serious matter, and I hope that Senator Joe Manchin understands that it is dangerous. It is reckless as a strategy for the Democratic Party, and it is dangerous for Americans that need help right now, including in West Virginia.
That's exactly right. Yeah, Alex. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But yeah, his state that he represents the level of poverty there.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So
I wanted to add to that real quick. Sorry, Cenk, but I mean, that's part of what frustrates me personally, and this is of course my opinion, but of the Democratic Party overall, that Joe Manchin feels emboldened enough to come out and say that he's against $2,000 checks as if his own constituents aren't in favor of those checks, which does create a perfect opportunity for the Democratic Party to make its case and hold Senator Manchin accountable, right? Use press conferences, media appearances, whatever it is, to call him out by name and say, hey, the good people of West Virginia also need some economic relief during this time of crisis. And he's the one who's standing in the way of us getting that accomplished. And so I guess my question to you is, Senator Turner, would you be willing to call these Democrats out by name when they serve as massive obstacles in getting important policy passed?
Part of our job in that kind of service is to educate the people and to let them know who's really on their side, to call the question. So absolutely, I've been on record calling the question for several years now, and I definitely will not hesitate, especially if something of this magnitude. This is not child's play. This is life and death for so many people right now in this moment, not just in our country, but in the entire world. And in the wealthiest country on the face of the earth, we have a senator or any other senator that is holding up survival checks to people. It is immoral, it's unconscionable, and yeah, we gotta start calling out names. So yes.
Love it.
Yeah, so Senator Turner, one last question then, and it goes along those lines. So look, if and hopefully when you get into Congress, they will immediately tell you, look, you've got to look out for your colleagues, and we're all in this together. And so there's a lot of blue dog Democrats in this caucus, and they're worried about winning in purple districts. And that will often be in conflict with the interest of your voters, honestly, who would want the $2,000 checks, higher minimum wage, tougher police reform, et cetera. So when leadership asks you to make sure you support your Democratic colleagues, and that's a tough question, how do you answer that question?
I will support my Democratic colleagues as long as they supporting the people. Because my first obligation is to the mother down the street who can't afford her groceries. My first obligation is to the family where the mother and or the father may have lost their job. My first obligation are to those children who, because of the pandemic, do not have the requisite technology that they need and have lost so much time in their education because they may live in a district that does not have all the resources needed to educate them. My first obligation and my only special interest are the people who elected me to do their bidding. So my Democratic colleagues gonna get all my support, all my love, baby, as long as they standing up for the least of these, our sisters and brothers in this country. They got my support.
And people wonder why we support Nina Turner. All right, jdems.us/Nina Turner. It's gonna be in the description box below if you're watching this later on YouTube or Facebook. So easy to click on it. Then you bring that change, you bring Nina Turner into Congress and let her do what she does, okay? And you make that happen, and you empower her, she empowers you. That's how this thing works, okay? And Justice Democrats helps facilitate all of that. So don't forget to show some love to justdemocrats.com as well. And then the fun begins. So let's see how it turns out, obviously. But we all know that Nina Turner is a hell of a fighter for progressives. And it's great to have you both on, Alex Rojas and Senator Nina Turner running for Congress in Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.